Lieutenant Commander Maya Okafor pushed away from her monitoring station and rubbed her eyes. 26 hours on duty at the International Deep Space Station was breaking protocols, but the signal demanded her complete attention. It pulsed with mathematical precision, too perfect to be natural cosmic noise. "Commander, you need to see this," called Specialist Zhang from across the dimly lit command center. The pattern just changed. Maya crossed the room in 3 quick strides. The waveform on Zhang's screen had shifted from regular intervals to a complex, fractal-like structure. Their translation matrix, programmed to recognize potential communication patterns, was processing the new input at unprecedented speed. "It's solving it," Maya whispered. "Whatever this is, it's speaking a language our systems can partially understand." The final translation appeared on screen with clinical precision. "Human species cataloged. Assessment complete. Prepare for integration. Resistance categorized as futile." Maya's blood ran cold. The message wasn't just directed at Earth, it was a declaration. Within 3 hours, massive vessels breached the heliopause, their energy signatures overwhelming Earth's deep space monitoring systems. The objects moved with impossible precision, decelerating from near-light speed without any apparent propulsion exhaust. "Get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command," Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system, "and download all signal data to our secure backup." On Earth, Admiral James Chen stood before the hastily assembled Global Security Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic projections of the approaching vessels. "They're positioning themselves at strategic points throughout our solar system," he explained, highlighting the alien formation patterns. "Lagrange points, resource-rich asteroids, and orbit paths that give them coverage of every human settlement from Mercury to the Jupiter moons." "Are they hostile?" demanded the council secretary, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Before Chen could answer, every communication device on Earth activated simultaneously. The message was broadcast in perfect regional languages to every corner of the planet. "We are the collective. Your civilization has been deemed inefficient and chaotic. Your technological development path is suboptimal. Your resource management is wasteful. We bring order and purpose. Resistance is unnecessary and illogical." Admiral Chen watched the faces around him pale as the aliens demonstrated their power. Global communications overridden without effort, Earth's most secure systems accessed as easily as opening an unlocked door. That evening, as political leaders drafted messages of peaceful cooperation, Chen quietly accessed historical records of similar benevolent interventions throughout human history. The patterns were unmistakable. The language of uplift and assistance hiding the reality of exploitation and subjugation. In her station above Earth, Maya discovered hidden data embedded within the alien transmission. Fractional code sequences that, when assembled, revealed star charts marking 17 other worlds, 17 civilizations that had received identical messages before falling silent. As Earth prepared to welcome its new benefactors, Maya encrypted her findings and sent them through a private channel to Admiral Chen. His response was brief. "History won't repeat itself." Not this time. Admiral Chen stood alone in his quarters, the ancestral sword hanging on his wall catching the first light of dawn. 5 generations of his family had carried it in service to their people. Now he wondered if his generation would be the last to know freedom. The Krith Collective had moved quickly. Within 72 hours of first contact, they had established orbital positions around Earth and begun what they called resource optimization, seizing control of mining operations throughout the asteroid belt and installing monitoring devices on every major human settlement. Chen's secure tablet chimed with an encrypted message from Maya. "They're not as perfect as they seem. Signal interruptions occur during solar flare activity. There's a pattern we might exploit." The Admiral's response was brief. "Keep watching. Stay unnoticed." On the diplomatic front, the situation deteriorated hourly. The United Nations Great Hall fell silent as Krith Ambassador Zekskar, a towering figure with iridescent skin and 4 articulated arms, demonstrated their technological superiority. With a casual gesture from a device no larger than a human palm, he disintegrated the scale model of United Nations headquarters at the center of the hall, then restored it instantly. A simple demonstration, the alien said, its translator producing flawless English. What we can unmake, we can remake. Remember this as we discuss humanity's future role. On Mars colony, engineer Sofia Rodriguez watched through reinforced windows as Krith harvesters methodically dismantled the research outpost she had spent 3 years helping to build. The colonial governor had surrendered without resistance when Krith ships appeared in orbit, following Earth's official policy of cooperative integration. Sofia wasn't interested in cooperation. During the night, she had secretly accessed the colony's backup power system, rerouting it to her personal laboratory. Something about the Krith technology had caught her attention. Minute fluctuations in their energy fields whenever human communications passed through certain frequency bands. They're not invincible, she whispered to herself, fingers flying over her makeshift console. They just want us to think they are. Her instruments detected the pattern again as a Krith overseer's equipment momentarily faltered while passing through her modified scanner field. The alien quickly adjusted something on its suit, apparently compensating for the interference. Sofia worked through the night, documenting every frequency it caused even the slightest disruption to Krith systems. She transmitted her findings through a buried emergency communication line that the aliens had overlooked, a primitive copper wire running beneath the Martian soil to a secondary antenna array. The message reached Earth 18 minutes later, bouncing through 3 separate relay stations before arriving at Admiral Chen's secure terminal. He studied Rodriguez's findings, a plan already forming. Within hours, Chen had contacted a carefully selected group of military and civilian leaders across the solar system. People he knew personally, people who would understand what he was proposing without needing explicit instructions that might be intercepted. His message was simple. The visitors expect absolute compliance based on their superior technology. Let's show them something uniquely human instead. Operation Unexpected begins at 400 Universal Time. Confirmation requested. One by one, the responses came in from Earth, Mars, Europa, and the asteroid colonies. No one declined. The Krith Command Center erupted in confusion. Ornate displays that typically projected perfect order now flashed with warning signals from a dozen different outposts. Explanation required, demanded Senior Overseer Dex Nar, its voice vibrating with harmonic undertones of stress. Probability matrices indicated human compliance at 97% certainty. The science directors exchanged nervous glances. None wanted to admit the obvious. They had miscalculated. On Europa, Maya worked with cold precision. Her fingers moved rapidly across the reprogrammed communication array, broadcasting cascading frequency patterns designed from Rodriguez's data. The patterns weren't random. They mimicked natural solar electromagnetic pulses, but concentrated in ways that specifically targeted Krith sensor bands. Status, she asked the small team working alongside her. Krith orbital platforms are experiencing 15-second communication blackouts, reported her second-in-command. They're trying to compensate, but we're changing frequencies faster than their systems can adapt. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Keep them disoriented. Phase 2 begins now. Throughout the asteroid belt, mining teams executed Rodriguez's carefully designed protocols. Excavation charges, normally used to break apart mineral-rich rocks, had been reconfigured as electromagnetic pulse devices. When detonated in precisely timed sequences, they created interference waves that scrambled Krith navigation systems. Mining accident, Rodriguez transmitted to the confused Krith administrators on Mars. Very unfortunate. Our primitive human technology is so unpredictable. We're working to resolve the situation. Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, Admiral Chen's seemingly suicidal maneuver was underway. 3 Earth Defense Force vessels accelerated directly toward the main Krith mothership, not firing weapons, but deploying advanced electronic countermeasures developed in secret laboratories beneath the Atacama Desert. "They're targeting our approach vectors," reported Chen's tactical officer as Krith defense systems locked onto their ships. "Maintain course," Chen ordered calmly. "Let them think they know exactly what we're doing." The Krith vessels responded predictably, positioning to intercept the human ships with overwhelming firepower. At precisely that moment, Chen's fleet split formation in a maneuver that human pilots had practiced exhaustively, but would appear completely illogical to Krith tactical systems. The confusion spread through the Krith network like a virus. Their perfect choreography, the product of a linked consciousness, accustomed to absolute certainty, began to falter as unpredicted events cascaded across the solar system. In the United Nations Hall, Ambassador Zexkar received the disturbing updates. The humans were not behaving according to any of the 17 standard resistance models the collective had encountered before. "Explain this aberration," Zexkar demanded of its science directors, who reluctantly admitted an oversight. "We failed to adequately weight a critical aspect of human psychology," the lead director confessed. "When cornered, humans don't calculate odds of success. They change the rules of engagement entirely." Zexkar's skin shifted to a darker hue, indicating serious concern. "Recalibrate our approach immediately. This species requires special attention." Maya received the summons with skepticism. A diplomatic exchange aboard the Krith mothership seemed too convenient, too sudden after the resistance had shown its first signs of effectiveness. Still, the opportunity to gather intelligence from inside their command vessel was too valuable to ignore. "This is almost certainly a trap," Admiral Chen warned during their encrypted communication. "Most likely," Maya agreed. "But it's also our best chance to understand their command structure. I'm going." The Krith shuttle that collected her was a marvel of engineering. Seamless walls that shifted and adapted to maintain perfect environmental balance, inertial controls so precise she couldn't feel their acceleration to orbital velocity. Maya was escorted through curving corridors to an expansive chamber unlike anything she had expected. Rather than the sterile, utilitarian design humans had anticipated from the logical Krith, the room resembled a museum. Artifacts from what she assumed were dozens of civilizations lined the walls. Artwork, technology, and objects whose purpose she couldn't begin to guess. At the center stood a massive, multi-limbed being. Unlike the other Krith she had encountered, this one's iridescent skin displayed complex, shifting patterns that seemed to reflect internal thought processes. Lieutenant Commander Okafor, the being greeted her, its translator producing perfectly accented English. "I am Strategic Overseer Exorthal. Welcome to my collection." Maya maintained a neutral expression. "You have quite an interest in other species." "I study potential," Exorthal replied, gesturing with one of its upper limbs toward a familiar object displayed prominently on a pedestal. "This particular artifact fascinated me when we first discovered your civilization." Maya approached slowly. A human chess set carved from marble rested on the pedestal, its pieces arranged mid-game. "You play chess?" she asked, genuine surprise breaking through her composed demeanor. "I find it primitively fascinating," Thal admitted. "A game of perfect information, where victory should be mathematically calculable, yet your greatest human players introduce elements of uncertainty through psychological manipulation and sacrifice." The alien gestured to the board. "Would you indulge me in a game while we discuss your species' future?" Maya nodded, recognizing the opportunity. As they played, she deliberately chose moves that were suboptimal according to standard chess theory, sacrificing powerful pieces for seemingly minor positional advantages, creating complex board situations rather than clear winning paths. With each unexpected move, she noted how Exorthal's skin patterns shifted, suggesting confusion or recalculation. The alien was calculating all possible moves, but struggling with the concept of strategic sacrifice. Meanwhile, across the solar system, Admiral Chen's analysis team had made a breakthrough. The disruptions caused by their coordinated actions had revealed a critical vulnerability. The Krith fleet operated on a hive mind communication system with precisely timed synchronization points every 4.3 hours. If we could disrupt those connections simultaneously across the fleet, his chief science officer suggested, the entire Krith command structure might temporarily collapse. Chen nodded, his expression grim but determined. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Sofia Rodriguez had expected interrogation after her capture. Instead, she found herself facing what appeared to be scientific curiosity. The Krith Research Council, 7 entities with varying physiological features, surrounded her in a semicircle, their attention focused on holographic displays showing her makeshift adaptations of mining equipment. These modifications shouldn't function, stated the lead researcher, its voice harmonics suggesting genuine puzzlement. Your approach violates 3 fundamental efficiency principles, yet achieves 118% of standard output. Rodriguez shrugged. Sometimes the scenic route gets you there faster. The comment triggered a ripple of communication among the council members, subtle skin color changes, and minute gestures that Rodriguez recognized as their equivalent of confused deliberation. Your species creates functional solutions through illogical methods, another council member observed. This conflicts with optimization protocols. As the examination continued, Rodriguez noticed something extraordinary. The council members weren't uniform in their responses. Some displayed what she interpreted as fascination, others dismissal, and at least 2 exhibited something resembling admiration. "You're not all the same species, are you?" she asked suddenly. The question triggered an immediate reaction, skin patterns shifting rapidly among all present. The lead researcher eventually responded. The collective encompasses 5 unified civilizations, integrated through advanced neural technology and governed by Krith Prime directives. We are one. But Rodriguez had caught the momentary hesitation, the subtle disharmony in their synchronized movements. Yet you maintain individual perspectives. Interesting. Meanwhile, aboard the mothership, Maya continued her chess match with Xorthal. 27 moves in, she had sacrificed both rooks and a bishop in exchange for a seemingly disadvantageous position. "Your strategy is flawed," Xorthal observed, its skin patterns indicating confidence. "Perhaps," Maya replied, moving her knight, "or perhaps victory isn't always found in the most direct path." As Xorthal considered the changed board state, Maya casually asked, "How many worlds has the collective visited before Earth?" 17 full integrations, 32 partial adaptive incorporations. Xorthal answered automatically, distracted by the game's unexpected configuration. "And do all member species find the integration beneficial?" The question triggered a momentary flutter in Xorthal's skin patterns. Benefit is measured by collective advancement, not individual satisfaction. Maya nodded thoughtfully. Humanity has thousands of cultures with different approaches to problem solving. Our diversity is our strength, not our weakness. Xorthal made its move, a comforting philosophy for a chaotic species. An accurate observation from an adaptive mind. Maya countered, noting how her comments about diversity seemed to resonate with subtle disruptions in Xorthal's usual harmonics. Across the solar system, Admiral Chen received encrypted reports from both Maya and Rodriguez. Their independently discovered intelligence aligned perfectly. The Krith weren't a monolithic entity, but a forced collective of conquered species, and within that collective, particularly among the most recently assimilated Vril, there were signs of strain. Chen leaned back in his chair, the beginnings of a new strategy forming. "They didn't come to add us to their collective," he murmured. "We're going to use them to create our own." Admiral Chen addressed the assembled resistance leaders through a patchwork of secure connections. Representatives from Earth, Mars, the asteroid colonies, and Europa stations listened intently as he outlined the daring plan. "The Krith aren't invincible," Chen explained, highlighting the intelligence gathered by Maya and Rodriguez. They're a collective of conquered species forced into neural synchronization. Their greatest strength is also their fundamental weakness. The Admiral's display shifted to show the Krith communication network. Every 4.3 hours, their hive mind requires synchronization. During that process, they're vulnerable to disruption. Rodriguez, recently extracted from Krith custody in a bold operation, took over the briefing. Their neural architecture can't process certain types of information, specifically what they classify as paradoxical inputs. Their systems literally crash when faced with contradictions they can't resolve. "What exactly are we talking about?" asked the Europa Station commander. Maya stepped forward, her time aboard the Krith mothership having provided crucial insights. "Music," she said simply. "Not just any music, but specifically composed pieces that create neural patterns the Krith collective consciousness interprets as paradoxes." Earth's greatest strength has always been cultural diversity, Chen continued. "We've developed thousands of musical traditions, each with unique mathematical underpinnings. The Krith have nothing comparable. Their collective consciousness eliminated such inefficiencies centuries ago. The plan took shape. Precisely when the Krith consciousness required synchronization, humans across the solar system would broadcast carefully composed musical pieces through the Krith's own communication network. Meanwhile, Maya had been granted ongoing access to Exorfall through what the Krith leader considered cultural exchange. Using this connection, she worked with sympathetic Vril engineers whose assimilation was newest and weakest. "Your species values individual thought," a Vril engineer named Keitel told her during a covert meeting. "The Krith consider it chaotic, but many of us remember what it means to think independently." Tel's skin patterns revealed profound emotion. "The Vril were peaceful explorers before the Krith came. We were the 17th world to be integrated. You can be the first to break free," Maya told him. On the day of implementation, Admiral Chen positioned his fleet in a scattered formation that the Krith probability matrices would classify as tactically unsound. The distraction would be crucial. As the synchronization moment approached, Rodriguez's team activated the transmission. The music, a hybrid composition drawing from Earth's most mathematically complex traditions, flooded the Krith network. The effect was immediate and cascading. Throughout the collected ships, individual consciousnesses began to emerge as the forced synchronization collapsed. Aboard the mothership, Horville's skin displayed chaotic patterns never before witnessed. "What is happening?" it demanded of Maya, who sat calmly across the chessboard. "Something uniquely human," she replied, moving her queen into an unexpected position. "We call it freedom of thought." Checkmate. Across the collective fleet, Vril ships began breaking formation, their crews experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in generations. Exorthal's flagship descended toward Earth, weapon systems charging to capacity. The strategic overseer had abandoned the chess game and diplomatic pretense entirely, his skin pulsating with patterns that Maya recognized as rage. "Your species will be made an example," Exorthal declared, multiple limbs operating command interfaces simultaneously. "Partial planetary sterilization will demonstrate the cost of resistance." Maya remained calm despite the guards restraining her. "You're making a tactical error. Look at your fleet status." The holographic displays surrounding Exorthal told the story. Nearly 40% of the collective consciousness had fragmented. Vril ships no longer responded to Central Command, and some were actively turning against their former masters. "Temporary disruption," Exorthal insisted, though the harmonic uncertainty in its voice betrayed doubt. "The collective will reassert control." "No," Maya replied. "It won't, because control was never freely given." Throughout the solar system, Admiral Chen's forces engaged the weakened Krith fleet. Human vessels employed constantly shifting tactics that the increasingly fragmented Krith command structure couldn't predict or counter. "Direct hit on their primary communications array," reported Chen's tactical officer. "Their coordination is degrading further." Chen nodded. Push the advantage. Focus on command and control systems, not weapons. On Mars, Rodriguez led a mixed team of human and Vril engineers in a daring operation. Using the colony's long-range transport, they had managed to dock with a secondary access port on Torthal's flagship. We need to reach the central synchronization hub, Catel explained as they moved through maintenance corridors. Without it, the Krith Prime cannot re-establish neural dominance. Rodriguez checked her scanner. 2 levels down. The disruption won't last forever. They encountered scattered resistance, confused Krith soldiers whose neural links were failing, making coordinated defense impossible. The Vril members of the team used their biological similarity to confuse the ship's internal sensors. There, Catel pointed to a pulsating chamber filled with crystalline structures. The synchronization hub. Rodriguez quickly assessed the system. We can't just destroy it. The feedback could kill every connected being in the collective. We need to reconfigure it. Working with desperate speed, the human Vril team reprogrammed the synchronization protocols. Instead of forced conformity, the new configuration would allow individual consciousness while maintaining communication capabilities. "They're coming," warned a team member as security forces converged on their position. "Almost done," Rodriguez replied, fingers flying across the alien interface Catel had helped her access. The chamber doors burst open. Rodriguez completed the final sequence as energy weapons fired. The blast caught her squarely in the chest, throwing her against the crystal arrays. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was the synchronization hub shifting from pulsing red to a calm blue. Aboard his command ship, Admiral Chen watched in amazement as Krith vessels across the system suddenly powered down weapon systems. Communication channels filled with confused individual voices rather than the unified collective mind. In orbit above Earth, Torthal's flagship halted its attack run. The strategic overseer stared in disbelief at displays, showing the fragmentation of his perfect system. "What have you done?" he demanded of Maya. "We didn't do it alone," she answered. "We just reminded your people what freedom feels like." 1 year later, Maya stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the newly constructed diplomatic hub orbiting Earth. Through the vast transparency, she watched shuttles arriving from across the solar system and beyond, carrying representatives to the historic signing ceremony. The journey to this moment had not been easy. After the collapse of the forced collective consciousness, each of the 5 species formerly under Krith control had experienced profound identity crisis. Centuries of neural synchronization had left deep scars, and the path to independence proved challenging. "Contemplating your victory?" asked a familiar voice. Maya turned to find Torthal approaching. The former strategic overseer moved differently now, less rigid, more fluid. The constant shifting patterns across its skin had stabilized into subtler, more natural variations. "Not victory," Maya corrected. "Transformation." Below them, in the Grand Assembly Hall, Admiral Chen and Catel, now Ambassador Catel of the Free Vril Coalition, prepared to sign the final provisions of the Sol Vril Cooperative Accord. The agreement established boundaries, shared research initiatives, and mutual defense protocols, not as master and servant, but as equals. "Your species continues to confound probability models," Torthal observed. The Krith Prime Protocol predicted subjugation or extinction as the only possible outcomes of superior force meeting inferior technology. The protocol failed to account for adaptation, cooperation, and choice, Maya replied. "Qualities that can't be reduced to mathematical formulas." Torthal's skin rippled, and what Maya had learned was thoughtful acknowledgement. "I have been studying human culture. Particularly fascinating is your concept that strength emerges from diversity rather than uniformity. It contradicts all established Krith principles, yet the evidence is undeniable." The ceremony began below them. Maya watched with quiet pride as Rodriguez, having recovered from her injuries with the help of advanced Vril medical technology, took her place among the signatories. She now led a joint human-alien engineering corps developing hybrid technologies that combined Krith efficiency with human creativity. "We've received a transmission," Xorval said suddenly. "From the Nilari system. Another world facing integration by a Krith splinter faction that rejected our transformation." Maya's expression grew serious. "What did they request?" "Assistance," Xorval replied. "They heard of Earth's approach." The signing ceremony concluded to thunderous applause. As Chen and Kittel shook hands, a human gesture the Vril had adopted enthusiastically, Maya considered the implications of the Nilari transmission. "What will you tell them?" Xorval asked. Maya smiled. "The truth. That humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating a superior force. It was showing the galaxy a better way forward." Below, the delegates from 5 formerly subjugated species mingled with humans from every nation, their differences celebrated rather than suppressed. As Maya watched, Admiral Chen approached the communications podium with Kittel beside him. Together, they activated the response to the distant Nilari. Their message was brief but powerful. "We're on our way." The era of Krith dominance had ended. The age of cooperation had begun.